Movies can have a lasting impression on you and bring back great memories. Certain images you will always remember. Things that have been with me all my life and keep getting added to with every movie I see.
I will turn this place into the fucking Wild Bunch if I think you are fucking with me.
E.T. phone home.
This is the end of your rotten life, you motherfucking dope pusher!
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Welcome to My Cellular Heart Podcast, Season 4, Episode 151. We're almost at 200, Chip. We only got 49 left to go.
Only 49? Yay.
Well, I listen to this murder podcast, Sword and Scale, and they're like on Season 9, but Episode 214. And you're like, okay, we could spread them out more, but we're good. This is a podcast where we take two films that live in our head and heart and bring them together over two episodes by one topic or theme. Sometimes it's just me saying, Chip, you should check out this movie. And Chip's like, I'm all for that. I am your host, Philip Duke, and I am here with...
his cousin Chip. Hello, everybody.
That's right. So...
he's wrestling a dog right now, a
I
very
am.
big dog.
I got my Great Dane here. But I did want to say, so Tim's got some things going on. Mm-hmm. So he said he's thrilled to finally announce the incredible news. Sushi was officially selected to the Festival of Cinema in New York City. This will be Sushi's first in-person screening, and I'm absolutely blown away that 1 year later, our small film from Indiana is being recognized in New York City. On behalf of myself and my entire team, we thank you so much, Festival of Cinema. And then it says tickets are on sale now, and we will be linked in my bio. So Alex, Nick, and him. Alex is the writer. She wrote it. And then Tim directed it, and then Nick was the cinematographer. And then Arsenio edited it, who was on our show. So he said they're all ecstatic and will be attending this festival. So that's awesome. And then Nadia Geiger, who sang the song, and she's in the movie. She said, "What the heck?" Like, and he said, and he goes, "I tell you what." So yeah, nice. So that's awesome. So congrats to those guys. I wish I lived in New York City or could just go there. But yeah. And then also, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say we need to talk about the Clerks 3 trailer.
Well, yeah, we could do that. Okay, let's do Clerks 3 trailer. So, okay. Because then I got an email from Michael Strom, who, he writes into the show sometimes. So very cool. But anyway, Clerks 3, the trailer came out today. I thought, oh my God, is this going to be a J.M. Silent Bob reboot? Is it going to be not very good? Because Kevin Smith's good at hyping things, and then it's not that great. You know, like you and I saw when he talked about Bill and Ted, the newest one.
Oh yeah.
And we were like, oh, wow, he said it gave him feelers and it was just great. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, like that wasn't that good. Yeah. But I get where they were going and they had fun. So I'm fine with that. But yeah, Clerks 3, where Randall like has a heart attack, like Kevin Smith. And then he's like, I'm going to make a movie because I love movies. I should make movies. And so then he goes and makes Clerks. Yes. And then they're like, you should put Jay and Silent Bob in it. And he's like, no, they're like 3PO and R2. And then the thing though that's cool, that just that added thing, is if you saw the deleted scene, the way the movie ends is Dante's finishing up. Randall did the, what's that called? Did the walk as he rambled. Yeah. He said, do the ramble, and he rambled on out. And then a guy comes in, he goes, hey man, we're closed. And the guy shoots him and kills him and takes money out of the register and leaves. And you're like, holy shit. Like, I'm glad they didn't end that way because that's a down ending. But that's what they said about Empire. So then when you see this and he brings this guy in, it's the exact same guy. And he's like, he's going to rob, because I'm like, that guy, that's the same guy. Like I know that look. And the guy comes in, he's like, who's this? He goes, he's going to shoot you and kill you. He's like, what? He's like, yeah. And so like Kevin Smith said, they brought everybody back, like all the incidental, all the small like people, like they're all coming back. So probably Kevin's sister's going to be in it, maybe as, she masturbated animals. Remember, she was a manual masturbator. That was his sister.
But one of the girls, the original girls, passed away, didn't she?
I think the one that used to be married to Randall in real life, married to Jeff Anderson in real life. I think so. But I think also now he might put the girl that was supposed to be that girl, his real girlfriend, Kim Loughran, like he might put her in there, who played Alice and Brie. But he's going to have the dark-haired girl in there that, not every girl changes fucking tire for you. So yeah, it looks good. It looks like a good, well-rounded, like he said, it brings a smile to your face. It's sweet. It like ties everything up. Like, it's good.
Yeah. It has a purpose.
Yeah.
The reboot didn't really have a purpose other than just to make fun of the reboot thing. And it was it just seemed like it was a garbled mess of ideas. Yeah. And with this, it's really basing it around the first Clerks movie, and it just comes full circle. Yeah. And it's funny that they make fun of themselves. Like, of course, talking about the people that built the Death Star and everything like that. And he's like, oh, I can't. No, that Disney will sue me.
Yeah. Like, and that he's like, we're going to do Clerks 2. And he's like, what, am I a hack? Like, no, I'm not going to do that.
And right when he says, what, am I a hack? You see Silent Bob go, yeah, it points at him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really cool. It's cool that we got to see the evolution of these people, especially Jay, who during like Chasing Amy was real bad in his drug addiction, like all that stuff. But he was so clean. He was a straight edge when he was in that movie. And then they were like, oh, you're a dope smoking, guy. And he's like, okay. And then he goes into drugs because he gets into Hollywood. Him and Jack Osborne and all this stuff go downhill. But then they're all in AA and all this stuff, and him and, he meets Danny Trejo in the program, Jack Osborne, like they all like, Ben Affleck, like everything. So
I realized something after watching this trailer. I realized that Jeff Anderson and O'Halloran are, to me, kind of a Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau team. I kind of feel like...
I thought you were going to be big-headed like me and say it's you and me. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
No, it is that. They just work so well together. And there's another podcast that O'Halloran's doing under Kevin Smith, and it's Clerks 2 TOO. It's like people who were also in Clerks. Yeah. And so he interviews all these people. And it's really interesting because it's like, oh, so-and-so was almost going to be this guy. And like Kevin Smith being like, I was a Jeff Anderson guy. Like I wanted to have all the great lines and do all the good stuff. And then he said, I met Jeff Anderson and was like, holy shit, like, who is this guy? And they were like, that's who he is. That's Jeff Anderson. Like, he's just that guy. And that Kevin took that a little bit from Brian Johnson. Like, that's how Brian Johnson was with just being so, the guy with the beard in the comic book men. So, but it looks good. I can't wait to see it. It should be fun. That's one where I might pay to go see it with a group of fans who, and there'll be like deep cuts in there and stuff. So we had an email from Michael Strom. He tried to post this on our Instagram, but it wouldn't let him for some reason. So all of a sudden, I don't use my mail on my Apple, like my, whatever it's called, iMail. I don't know what it's called. Yeah. I don't use that. But all of a sudden, I click on it because I'm like, it says I have 117, whatever, and I go to look at it. And there's one that goes to my Cellular Heart email. So I thought I had that signed up on my Google so that I get all the emails. But I didn't get that. So I was like, oh shit. So I read it and I was like, oh fuck. So I wrote him back and I was like, no, I'm gonna read this. So he said in no particular order, his favorite directors, Gareth Evans, who I really want you to see. He does the Raid movies. I'm really thinking of, I think you'll be up for it, but the 2 Raid movies I'd like to do sometime. Stanley Kubrick, I think you know that guy. How many have you seen? You've seen Shining?
Yes.
Is that all? Eyes Wide Shut, maybe?
I saw the beginning of Eyes Wide Shut, I think.
Did you see?
I wasn't really getting into it at all. I was just kind of like, this is fucking weird.
Did you see Full Metal Jacket? You probably saw.
Yes.
Did you see Barry Lyndon? That's one that I haven't seen yet. Barry Lyndon. But 2001, have you seen that?
Yes. Well, I don't remember it.
Right.
I just remember
So
me and
good.
Dad watching it, I think, but I don't remember.
Really good. But anyway, Quentin Tarantino. You know that guy?
Oh, yeah. He loves feet.
It's right. Takashi Miike. He did like Ichi the Killer. He does these Japanese films.
Oh, okay.
But he makes like a whole bunch. Like he'll make like 10 in a year or something. He'll make like a lot.
Damn.
I don't know if it's that many, but he makes
So
a lot.
he's like a Stephen King writer.
Last time I checked,
he
makes a lot. But he's got such a vision where he was the one that I told you my wife woke up once and was like, what are you watching? It was a Japanese movie. A woman's hopping around on one leg, fighting another guy with like a samurai sword or something. And she's like, I go, it's called Ichi the Killer. It's a good movie. She's like, no, it's weird. Like, turn it off. And then Roger Corman. So, Roger Corman, he had his production company, but he's also directed a couple films. So, and he got everybody to start. Ron Howard did his first movie with him. Joe Dante. Who's the guy from Three Amigos? I think he started with him. Who's the guy that did Three Amigos? Coming to America. Chip. Supposed to be.
I don't know if I've ever
running for your phone. No, but you know the guy. He's got a beard. Did Twilight Zone. Because remember he had that accident happened.
Yeah, we were like.
yeah, it was sad. Yeah, so the 3 that did that was Joe Dante. John Landis is the guy I was thinking of. George Miller and Steven Spielberg did that. But John Landis is he got started also with him. Actors. Here's an actor I can't believe none of us said. And you're going to go, oh shit. Alan Rickman. I was like, oh fuck. Right when I read it, I'm like, oh shit. Iko Uwais. He's from the Raid movies. And he was in, if you saw Stuber, he was the little bad guy in Stuber. Stuber's pretty good. You should check it out. Bill Paxton. Fucking yes. Emma Thompson. Yes. Jason Bateman. I think you said Jason Bateman, or I did. Somebody said Jason Bateman. Movies. A Christmas Story. Of course. Did you hear my phone just ding? Put on Do Not Disturb, dude. The Raid Redemption, which, of course, is what we said. That's the first one. Which the story of that is kind of like they did with the Judge Dredd movie. Was there's a bad guy up at the roof, up at the top floor. You have to fight your way all the way through. So all the cops are coming, and it's an ambush, and then Iko Uwais has to make it like all the way to the main bad guy. And it's got some amazing fucking stunts, just everything just done so well. Like a John Woo, but like even better.
But with no doves.
Because with fighting. No doves. Did I say John Woo? I meant John Wick. Yes. The Blues Brothers. Yes. Usual Suspects. Yes. Can't believe none of us mentioned Usual Suspects. The Peanut Butter Falcon. So have you seen this? I've heard about this. This is Shia LaBeouf. He did he's taking care of this kid with Down syndrome. Is a big wrestling fan, and he wants to go to a wrestling match.
Johnson is in it.
I think so. Dakota is. and he wants to take him to a wrestling match or something, like something cool. Honorable mentions are The Station Agents, which has Peter Dinklage in it. Supposed to be like the one that really everybody's like, who is this guy? Like this amazing movie. Aliens.
Of course. Yeah.
James Cameron, like awesome. I think you said you saw it once a long time ago and you haven't.
Yep.
Oh my God, dude. And then this one kind of threw me for a loop, but it's cool because I own it. We had a friend of ours record it off a DVD, so I have a burned DVD of it. Arthur Christmas. Have you seen that? It was like an animated type thing. He said it's really good. Like, so maybe it's as good as that one that you and I like, Legends of, what's that one? With everybody. It had Santa and it had.
Oh yeah, the Rise of the Guardians.
Yeah. So maybe it's something like that. It's cool. But thank you, Michael. And now,
thank you, better mooch.
Some corrections for last week's show.
No, we were perfect.
Nope.
You were wrong. Wrong. Finger guns. Wrong. Wrong in your weenie.
So Zahn McClarnon is the actor who plays Officer Matthias in Longmire and was also in season 2 of the Fargo series. So Chip's like, oh, I already knew that because, oh, really? Well, maybe I did too. Because maybe we put it in our recast it.
I did.
Me too. So you ready to get on with the show? You got anything to say before we get into it?
I did buy the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent for $10. Everybody should go buy that.
Sweet.
You know why? Because
good.
Nick Cage's smooch is good.
That's right. Did you guys watch it again yet?
No, because you told me about it, and I told her I was going to buy it, and then I totally forgot about it until like we got back in bed or something last night, and I went, "Oh shit, is it still on sale?"
Yeah,
and bought it. I was like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, I was. I always check like the $5 movies, and I check if like what I'm checking right now is like if Anything Everywhere All at Once is going to drop down to 10, I'll probably buy it because I hear it's great.
Yeah.
But I'll checking on other things. But anyway, I found that, and then I was like, do I want to buy it? Was it only funny because I was with Chip and we watched it? And it was cool, and I'm like, no. And I watched the trailer, and I'm like, no, this was fucking good. Like I gotta get it, and so I get it, and I tell the wife. And she loves Con Air, so I told her, I go in the beginning, you're gonna love how that starts with her going fucking Nicolas Cage. So
well, and when I was talking about it to a buddy of mine today at work, I was telling him about the movie, and I told him about the smooch is good, and that he got it from a movie that he had seen, an old movie or whatever, and that he's an actual lover of film.
Did I send that to you, by the way? That
clip?
You
sent it to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I told him about it, that you had sent me that actual clip or whatever. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, it's badass.
Yeah.
But then, I actually played him the scene from the movie with him, I was like, see, there's a young version of himself that he's talking to. He's like, what the hell? And he's like, that's awesome. And I was like, yeah, it was only $10.
Yeah.
I go, I bought it for 2 reasons. I said, because it's the last movie that me and you saw in the theater. So it's a we hadn't seen a movie together in a long time.
Yeah.
So I had to get it for that, but then also the fact that it was a good movie. So
me too. Same here. And yeah, the thing, like you said, like you can tell, like when Nick Cage is like, oh, I saw this movie a long time ago. I was like, let's put that in there. And then like them saying like in the 90s, you were real crazy. And here's this German talk show that he was on that everybody shares. It's a thing on YouTube. You look up like German talk show, Nick Cage, and it'll pop up. And that's where he looked kind of like that character that he's talking to. And they were like, this is the guy that you're fighting against or whatever. So it was very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Chip, you ready to get on with the show?
Let's do it.
Sheriff's office. I need emergency assistance. Wind River Indian Reservation.
In search of a killer.
Why would a teenage girl be out here? Where's she running from?
Nothing is harder to track than the truth.
I can help you.
The Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, and America's top critics agree.
Out here, you cannot blink.
Wind River is the best thriller of the summer.
Oh my God.
Wind River, rated R, now playing in theaters.
Wind River, 2017. The plot: a veteran hunter helps an FBI agent investigate the murder of a young woman on a Wyoming Native American reservation. So much more to it than that. But stars Jeremy Renner as Corey Lambert. So IndieWire reported that Chris Pine was set to star in the movie alongside Elizabeth Olsen. However, he ended up filming his role in Wonder Woman while Renner took on the lead role. So, nice. Which is good. I mean, they would have both done great. Like Chris Pine did so good in Hell or High Water. Like you could see him doing good in this and being that guy. Yep. Elizabeth Olsen is Jane Banner. She's Bruce Banner's wife. Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Graham Greene, my guy from fucking Dancing with Wolves. I was telling the wife, that's the guy from Dancing with Wolves. I said, have you ever seen it? She said, I don't know. He plays Ben Shoyo. I think I wrote that right because it's got a red underline. I'm always worried that it corrected me or didn't, but I think it's Shoyo. Gil Birmingham as Martin Hansen.
Yeah,
Gil
with
Birmingham
long hair
from Hell or High Water. He's in Yellowstone. He's fucking badass. And John Bernthal as Matt Rayburn. You get surprised by that one. And there's other people. I would have, like Chip said, the girl that plays Renner's ex-wife, she is from the newest season of Dexter, and she played like the cop. And then the girl that's John Bernthal, that's Hansen, that's Martin Hansen's daughter, is she's the wife of the military guy in Yellowstone, the Army Ranger, whatever he is. It's written by Taylor Sheridan. Sheridan was said that he wrote the film to raise awareness of the issue of a high number of indigenous women who were raped and murdered, both on and off reservations. According to Sheridan, he was inspired to write this film because he learned about the thousands of actual stories just like it, referring to the high number of indigenous women who were victims of sexual assault and or murder. He wrote and directed the movie to make more people aware of this problem. It's directed by Taylor Sheridan, his first film to direct. IndieWire revealed that this is for you, Chip, that I didn't know, and for anybody who doesn't know. IndieWire revealed that this is a part of a group of films written by Taylor Sheridan. Sheridan wrote 3 films that make up his modern-day American frontier trilogy. They are Sicario, Hell or High Water, and Wind River, which he directs.
Nice.
So yeah, Sicario, they all have that buildup of tension. Sicario, she's in the car. They're stopped waiting to go through the border, and those guys are sitting in the car staring at them. Those 4 guys, and they're going, "What are we doing?" And Jeffrey Donovan's like, "Just stay cool, stay cool." And then all of a sudden, she's got her hand on her gun, she's ready, and then she sees in the mirror that guy sneaking up on the side of the thing, and she just unloads on him, and you're like, "Holy!" And there's a whole firefight, and so awesome.
Yep.
All right, Chip, ready for Recasted?
One sec.
Okay.
I do wonder though, if he writing these movies, if the first 2 films, if he was around just there the whole time that they were filming, so that he could just learn the directing side of it, so he was ready for this movie.
That's what I was thinking, or there's people who know. Like I was telling Tim and Arsenio and them, I said, look, I tried to make a movie. I realized that I suck at it. I think I saw all these movies I could direct. No, I don't know when to push in. I don't know how long to stay on a moment. I don't know any of this. And I don't know how to edit it. I would fuck it up in the editing, or whatever. And so that's the thing where he could just have it in him where he knows the tension, but he also could be, when you're working with somebody as great as the guy that did Sicario, Villeneuve, you're going, oh shit, yeah, that's okay. I see how he did that, And also when you're doing it out of place, just to be the actors being like, is that going to work? Yeah, here it is put together. Holy shit. So same thing with Hell or High Water. Like we said, them all in the bank and the security guard coming up.
Well, and I guess the other question is the cinematographer doing all the work anyway?
Right.
Are you saying what you want, and the cinematographer is like, well, we're going to do it this way,
right,
to make that happen? And then it's like,
okay. Yeah, I think it would be, I think if you were like, I want a camera in the car right on her face, then the cinematographer is like, well, let me light that, let me set that up. or let's get the lighting set up so it'll light up everything so we can do it all in one take or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like we talked about on the 2-hour For the Love of Films that we did. Remember Children of Men? Did you ever see that? There was a whole thing in a car. That was the one where the girl's pregnant in the future and like there's nobody has had babies, and so Clive Owen's got to protect her. Anyway, there's this whole scene when they're ambushed in their car and they're like trying to back up and the camera's going around them in the car while it's moving, and you're like, holy shit. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's crazy.
All right, recasted. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Corey Lambert. I got Bradley Cooper. I thought he would be good. Now, Ben, I wanted to use him last time, and this time I say, you know what? He's only 4 years older than Graham Greene, so I put in Wes Studi. Jane Banner, Thor's coming out. I put in Natalie Portman. I was like, she'd be good.
Nice. Yeah,
and I'd like to see her be like gritty, like be badass, you know.
Yeah.
And Martin, I got Zahn McClarnon. So,
nice.
The guy from Longmire. So, what do you got, Chip?
All right. So for Corey, I have Jason Bateman.
Ah, cool. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I kind of though saw him. If he were to take this part, I kind of saw him more with longer hair, kind of almost like a, beard and like more of a mountain man type of a situation.
Yeah, that's what I
guess.
Yeah, you need somebody. I almost went with Dak Shepard because I just wanted some kind of gruff guy, and then I almost went with Ashton Kutcher, but I thought that might pull people out. But just like you're Luke Wilson, people might just be like, "No, I'm in."
Yeah. For Ben, I did put Zahn
McClarnon. Yeah.
Yeah. Put him for Ben.
For the cop. Okay.
And then for Jane Banner, I put Melissa Benoist, the girl that played Supergirl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She'd be cool. Yeah, see her do some badass shit.
Yeah, because I kind of wanted her to... She needed to have the same feel as Elizabeth Olsen as being green. But still needing to prove herself, like to that, I've been trained to do this. Let me fucking do it, kind of a mentality.
Yeah, and having the emotions of, like he said, I appreciate your feel, your sympathy for it, but there's nothing we can do. Like he's like, and that's where I like how he's trying to explain to her, and then the coroner's like, look, I believe it is a murder, but I'm telling you, legally, this is how I have to do it, and she's like. And then when Ben explains it to her, she's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Martin, I have Mo Brings Plenty from Yellowstone.
Brings Plenty.
Yeah, he's the guy that drives the car for Rainwater in Yellowstone.
Oh, okay, yeah,
he's his driver, but he's also his bodyguard with guns and shit. Like he's ready to take anybody out.
Yeah.
And
that's
do all the dirty work for him.
Yeah.
And then, because you weren't sure about Matt, I still put a person to play Matt.
Yeah,
so I put Adam Driver.
Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. So yeah, I sent Chip a thing of, I said, here's who recasted. I felt kind of bad because I forget, was that before or after? It was after you saw the movie, right? So it was okay? Or was it before?
It was before.
Oh, okay. So I put Matt, and then I put John Bernthal, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, now I ruined something for Chip. And then I'm like, forget about Matt. Let's just do these guys. Because then if you're doing Matt, now you might want to do the girlfriend, and all this. So Matt was the guy that she's dating. And if you did Adam Driver, I might do, who was I thinking before? And it might be good because I was thinking Ben Foster might be a good Corey Lambert because he's tough, but he's also too emotional. Like he'd be too over the top. Like you'd be like, he's carrying this whole movie. Like, forget about everybody. Like, just unleash him. But maybe him as Matt, because you would think, oh, is he going to be the bad guy? And then he'd be fucking, he'd be nice. So that'd be cool.
Okay. It was weird, though, because you told me John Bernthal was in it, and I was waiting for it. When you finally see him in the movie, it was a point where some of the noises he made when he was fighting was noises that he made while in Punisher, where like that, and I was like, "Oh, that's fucking weird."
yeah.
Like it's just such a like it's weird that a growl like that or a grunt like that is so easily identifiable from an actor. I was like, "That's crazy."
Well, and it's so good for that thing, the tension of that. Of them, we've all been around drunk people who you're like, look, you've gone too much, like just go away. You've been in I don't know about you, but I've been at parties where you think two of your friends are going to get in a fight and you're like, fuck, like, and then somebody pulls them away, they calm down, everything's good, or maybe the other one's still pissed, the one leaves, whatever. And it's that thing of like, he's like, will you get the fucking guy? Like, will you get him out of here? And it takes him a while. It takes that guy from Flashpoint a while to finally be like, okay, come on. Yeah. And then as soon as, she gets punched, then all of a sudden, and John Bernthal's out. Then when he fucking attacks, because then you're like, oh shit, they're all going to rape her. And that's why there's multiple, but it's because Peter was so rough. Yeah. And then he just tackles Peter and he tells her to run. And she looks at, and you see that face before they engulf him, and you're just like, oh shit, like, and she like wants to stay but can't stay, and also like has no shoot, like but she just going like she's got to survive. Yeah, so good. You ready for listener opinion? Oh, well, so normally here I have, how did this movie come into your life? We went to the theater and saw it, me and the wife. I had seen the preview and I was like, that looks really good. And then you see it and it's one of those, just like Sicario, just like Hell or High Water. They're like, holy shit, like this is really good. And it's one of those, again, like Hell or High Water, that you can watch a lot. If you put them side by side, I think I'd like Hell or High Water better. Yeah. But I think it's because this is so like dark, but they're both, they're both 5-star. It's like you can't compare Terminator with Back to the Future. They're different movies, but they're both 5 stars. Yeah. Okay, you ready for some listener opinions?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you gotta have an opinion.
Well, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
I hated this movie.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
I like it!
Opinions vary.
Donnie B. Good, over there at Movie Chatter Podcast, wrote, Wind River is a solid A movie. Harsh, raw, suspenseful, gripping. It's been a while, but I remember this movie connected with me emotionally and physically. I was spent when it was over. Quite a ride. Great performance by Jeremy Renner. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. Brothers in Armchairs Podcast wrote, an outstanding, underrated Netflix gem. Might be too real for some folks, but the underlying message of the mistreatment and injustices Native Americans continue to endure needs to be experienced, if only in film, for empathy's sake. Samson Sturley wrote, with an okay emoji, brilliant. Me, Cherry Lee, wrote, loved it. And Jason Bromley didn't really, I said, do you want to come? Do you want to watch this movie? Do you want to comment on something? And the text he wrote me said, Wind River is great, but can't watch it now that I have kids. And I said, I totally, like, his little daughter is so cute, his son too. But I could see if you're putting yourself in that place, you're like, oh my God, I don't even want to think about it. It's like my wife going, I don't want to think about if something happens to you. Like, I don't want to, let's not go there.
Yeah, it's kind of like me when I watched Minority Report. I lost it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Jason Bromley, he's from Popcorn Promises, if I didn't say that. The realness, like a reel of film, revealed that Taylor Sheridan learned just how serious this problem is during the course of filming. Tribal leaders on the reservation where the movie was filmed told the director there were 12 unsolved murders in the area of fewer than 6,500 people. That was while they were filming. He's like, oh yeah, we got 12 unsolved murders.
Damn.
So, you ready to discuss this thing?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
All right. During the winter on Wyoming's Wind River Indian Reservation, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agent Corey Lambert discovers the frozen body of 18-year-old Natalie Hansen. FBI Special Agent Jane Banner arrives to investigate the possible homicide. Banner learns from Natalie's father, Martin, that his daughter was dating a new boyfriend who is unknown to him. So that's what else is cool is, first of all, Gil Birmingham, like, fuck you, where have you been? Like, you're like 40 or whatever, however old you are. Like, where were you, like, in the 90s? Like, come on. Like, and why are you just sticking with Yellowstone? Like, do more shit. But when he's like, you guys always do that. You people always do that. You insult us. You know, you don't mean to, but you insult us. And then when she's like, can I go talk to your wife? And they all know that the wife is grieving in a Native American way, or just they know his wife. And they're like, Martin's like, yeah, go ahead. And she's like, okay, right over this way? Yeah, sure. And she walks in there, opens that door, and she's just cutting herself to feel something. Yeah. And she's just like, doesn't even say, hey, doesn't stop her, just steps out. And like, that is why I mentioned for my actors, I was going to mention Elizabeth Olsen, because she's not just a Marvel person. Like, you watch this and you're like, if her sisters have what she has, like, why weren't they doing serious shit? And just, well, I mean, money, right? They're making their kid money.
Well, yeah, because honestly, I don't know if they have what she has.
Yeah,
I mean,
right,
they kind of, they were doing it so young, and I think they went on to do whatever had their clothing empire and all that shit, that it was just, you know, it didn't matter anymore. If they had it, they probably lost it. They probably couldn't do what she does now.
Right. Yeah, true. And I think that's why they probably, they were 12 or something when they did that last movie with Drew Pinsky, Dr. Drew. Yeah. And, you know, they were like, okay, drop the mic, we're out. Yeah. But yeah, but the way she takes that emotion of seeing that, the way she took the emotion of the rape, the other end of that is is Ben, when Ben's like, can we make this fast? And you realize right there that it's Ben not liking to be, for one, in front of a dead bodies, for two, that's his friend's daughter. Like, and so good. Natalie's autopsy shows signs of blunt trauma and rape, as well as confirming Lambert's deduction that Natalie died from pulmonary hemorrhage caused by sub-zero air. So that's where it's cool, too, where he explains that to her. Like, here's what happened. She collapsed here, and then over there she curled up and died, drowning in her own blood. And you're like, holy shit. And
the fact that he just, like, in the moment, like, it's cool that he tells you later, but now when you go back and you think about those moments where he saw the spots, he knew exactly what was happening, and he knew what he was going to find.
Yeah.
Because of what he knows about it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, that kind of sucks, because him knowing everybody that lives in the area, he knew it was going to be somebody
he knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a thing of where they explain, like, well, there's an oil rigger guys, but they're gone for the winter, but they're like 3.5 or 5 miles away. And then closer is like 3 miles is like, you know, these druggy guys. And so they're like, well, it had to be 3. But he's like, as long as you think, I love that part, as long as you think she ran further. And you're like, holy fuck. And especially the end just fucking had me in tears. The medical examiner is unable to classify the death as a homicide, so Banner cannot get additional help from her supervisors. She's like, you make this a homicide and I can get people to help. And he's like, no, I can't. You know, like, I have to say that it's just an accident. And it was like, oh. But then, like we said, he's like, no, I know it's a murder. I just can't put my name to it.
Can't classify it,
Yeah. Lambert discovers that Natalie's boyfriend is Matt Rayburn, who works as a security guard in a nearby oil drilling site. So they do this good, too, because, for one, if you know these murder shows, it's always somebody you know, usually. You know, they look at the husband, they look at the boyfriend. Excuse me. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's totally somebody else. And so you're like, oh, shit, this Matt Rayburn, you know, and they don't like him because he's a white guy.
Yeah.
And just, you know, and the one guy wants to beat him
up. And because he's older, because he's the same age as Jeremy Renner.
Yeah. And her brother wants to, he's like, I wanted to fight him, but she wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
But I love how he's like, you can go talk to him. Like, it locks from the inside, but not the outside. Yeah. And then she's kind of like, Jane is like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want to know. And then later she's like, okay, what did you find out? And he's like, well, you already know, but here's what it is. Because he says that at the place. He's like, you already knew that when they're at his place. He's like, you already knew that, but you were asking me. She's like, yeah, I was checking where you were. And now I know with you telling me about your daughter, I know that you want to find these guys. She still has no idea that he wants to find and kill the guy. Like, he's working for, Martin. Him and Martin are on the same page.
Yeah. And I do love.
Oh, and there was that part that we forgot to say. Don't forget what you were going to say. When he's talking to Martin and he's like, they hired me. He's like, you got to help her get around, like find her way. He's like, no, I'm here for other reasons. And he's like, what are those? He's like, I'm a hunter, Martin. And Martin's like, well, when you find this guy, are you going to, he's like, yep. He's like, okay. And that's all he had to say. So he's like, get out and do your fucking job. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because of the fact that at that point, you haven't gotten to the point of knowing that his daughter and his daughter were best friends. So that there's also not just the reason that they're friends that he's going to, that's why he's going to kill them, hunt them.
Yeah.
But there's that reason too. And it's slowly, I love the pacing of the way that he writes this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the information is brought out at the right time. It's not force fed to you.
Yeah. It's a thing that I forgot until he's at the house going to find them. He finds that the mom's asleep. She's sleeping in her room with all the stuff around. And then as he's going to walk out, he sees the picture of his daughter. And my wife's like, oh, that's his daughter. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like I forgot. Like, oh, shit. And that hits you with, you're already like sad and then hits you with another punch. It's like, oh. Yeah. Lambert and Banner soon discover Matt's mutilated body in the snow. So, yeah, then my wife's like, what is that? And I go, well, like he said, they put him on some kind of trailer and drug him up there, but the tracks don't come down. They only go up. And then when they get up there, then they're like, oh, it's the person's body is Matt. And then you're like, oh, is that another Matt? Are they still looking for, but also then later when he finds the 3 mountain lions and there's a rib cage there. Yeah. And I'm like, they either ate him because they found that body somewhere else and ate him, or that they put him there to be eaten by the mountain lions because they knew the mountain lions are there. Yep. The bad guys. Lambert reveals to Banner that his 16-year-old daughter Emily died in a similar manner to Natalie, and the case remains unsolved. Banner, accompanied by tribal police chief Ben Shoyo, and other law enforcement officers, visit the drilling site where they are met by several of the security guards. They claim Matt left a few days prior following an argument with Natalie. One guard mentions they heard about Natalie's body being found, and Banner states that Natalie's name has not been released to the public. And he's like, I don't know, I heard it somewhere. The guards claim they learned it by monitoring a police scanner. Sorry. One of Banner's team notices the guards are slowly surrounding them and draws his weapon. The confrontation quickly escalates into an armed standoff, which Banner defuses. So I like how they're like, I got the fucking right here. Like, and the other one's like, no, and they're like, put your guns out. And then finally she's like, I'm FB fucking I. Like, you guys, like, I am in charge of this whole thing. And then
I love she has to spell that out. Federal.
Yeah. And then where that last guy holding his gun, and he's like, didn't you see it? Didn't you see it? And she's just like, put your gun down. And my wife's like, didn't you see it? I go, he's saying, like, didn't you see them flanking us? Like, couldn't you feel that we're about to be ambushed? And so now they don't let anybody around, either one of them. They're all standing separate.
Yep.
In a flashback. So then she's like, can we get into the thing? He's like, sure. And I like how the one guy, the tribal police are like, so what are you going to do? Do you have a warrant? She's like, no, I'm going to ask nicely. They're like, okay. And then, and so Corey goes the one way. He's like, I'll take this way. And they'll go that way. And so then he's up there and he's watching. He's trying to call Ben on the radio, and Ben's not answering because of weather or whatever. And because maybe they're down in the valley. And then she's knocking on the door and knocking on the door real loud. And then it cuts to flashback. Matt's drunk in college. So Matt is there, lets her in. They have sex. They're laying there. All of a sudden, they hear them pull up outside. And she's like, I thought they were gone for the night. He's like, I thought so too, but I guess not. And they come in and they're being drunk and they try to close the thing. And that guy, Peter, opens the thing. Hey, what's going on? And they're like, get the fuck away from you. So in Wind River, drunken colleagues barge into the trailer while he is in bed with Natalie. In Wind River, Matt gives a monologue praising the tranquil majesty of Ojai, California. He talks about the warm beauty of the area against the cold darkness presented in his remote trailer. Esquire revealed Bernthal holds similar opinions to his character as he and his family live in Ojai themselves.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Matt is provoked to violence, and the other guards retaliate while Pete rapes Natalie. So that's where you're just you see like her trying to be nice. Bernthal, though, knows these guys, so he's already irritated. He doesn't need any more provocation. She's trying to be nice. I'm like, come on, Pete. Yeah, did you? Blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, who's naked under there? And you're like, okay, he's drunk. He's being goofy. But then he like pulls the blankets off and John Bernthal kicks him. And you're like, holy shit.
Kicks him down, yeah.
Matt is provoked to violence. And like I said, while Pete rapes Natalie, Rabbit Reviews revealed that the film's most gut-wrenching scene didn't come easily. Bernthal lost 4 toenails in shooting the fight sequence. Jeez. Audiences might say the sequence is the most disturbing in the movie, but it's also the most effective. So yeah, I was telling my wife that, and she's like, well, wear shoes. I go, honey, it didn't work for the part. Like, he's in bed with Natalie, and he only has his boxers on, and he gets out and has to fight. But yeah, after I lose one toe, I'm going to be like, can't we put some, do you have to show my feet? But maybe John Bernthal, though, the way he is with acting, is just like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Yep.
Matt is beaten to death while Natalie flees into the frozen wilderness underdressed. In the present, Lambert traces the tracks from where Matt's corpse was found back to the drilling camp. As Banner and the others approach the trailer, Pete begins firing a shotgun through the door, wounding Banner. So how did that hit you?
Yeah, that was crazy because you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But the tension was there because Corey contacts Ben.
Yeah.
And just as he tells Ben what's going on,
Ben's like,
he turns and
he's like, Jane.
The other guy, though, the bad guy, was telling his buddy Pete that the FBI lady's right in front of the door, like letting him know to shoot through the fucking door.
Yeah.
And so right when he goes to warn her, she gets shot through the fucking door and goes flying.
Yeah. You're like, holy fuck. Where am I at? Okay. A gunfight ensues. Shoyo and the other officers are killed. As the remaining guards prepare to execute Banner, Lambert kills them with his rifle. So here's what was crazy. First of all, you're like, oh, it's just a shotgun. He'll be out. They can maybe get it. But then also when, say, it's not our guy from Flashpoint, but the other, one of the other guys just walks up and that one guy's like, take this, you son of a bitch, and tries to, that first guy that was like, they're flanking us, tries to pull his gun out, and he just gets shot right away. Yep. And then the other person, and it's almost like that Hell or High Water, just walks over to him and just shoots him in the head and kills that guy. Mm-hmm. And you're like, fuck. And Shoyo, Ben, is like dead, like right away, like boom. But so then you're like, shotgun, okay. And then all of a sudden he unloads with a fucking automatic weapon, and you're like, holy shit, and just blowing out the windows and shooting at everybody, and you're like, holy fuck. And then all of a sudden he gets shot and like flies back, and then the other
awesome
ones,
how he flipped and kind of hit the table thing, fell over. And I was like, oh damn.
And with when he and then when Flashpoint guy is gonna kill her, and then he kills him right away. And you're like, holy shit. And what was funny with this and with my wife is she's watching this and she goes, what kind of gun is that? And I go, I don't know. It's like a lever action. It looks like a Winchester, but it's more powerful. So she looks it up, Wind River gun. She's like, oh, it's a Marlin 4570. I'm like, holy shit, is that like 45 rounds? Like, holy shit. She's like, yeah. So she looks up. She goes, I want one. Now she starts searching like she wants to buy it. I'm like, first of all,
that's awesome.
First of all, honey, we have a 9mm in the house, which has 17 rounds per clip. Like, that's a lot. Yeah. Like, somebody breaks in, like, yeah, it's only going to take one. I have 2 clips. Like, do I need 32, 34? So, and then she wants a shotgun, and she also wants a revolver. She's like, revolver won't jam. And I'm like, you only get 6. I go, you only get 6 shots. She goes, if it's 357, it'll put them down. I'm like, okay, you're right. It's better than a 9mm in that instance. And then she's like, I want this Marlin. And I'm like, how are you going to use that? For one, we're gone at night and we're home during the day. So who's going to break in during the day? And you're going to pull out your Marlin rifle and blow the guy out the door. So.
No, the point is to shoot them with a 9mm. Enough to where they try and run away, and then you shoot them in the back when they're like down the street.
yeah, and then drag him back to the house because then they'd be like, "Why did you kill him while he's running away?" You'd be like, "Come on in." Damn, we blew him out the door. I got to bring him back in. If you shot him with a 4570, how come he didn't? He flew. We saw blood over here, but yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, a wounded Pete flees on foot, but Lambert apprehends him. So what's cool there too is her waking up from being knocked out with the fucking blast of the shotgun. She pulls her gun out. She starts firing at all them like right away, and then she's out.
I love that she shoots that guy in the ankles. Just blows his ankles just away.
Keeps,
I was like, oh,
shooting him right in the shin, but then like drops the, and then while they're talking, she drops the. She drops her clip and puts in another one real quick, and then he stops her. And you're just thinking like, oh, badass. She's waiting till nobody's looking. And then all of a sudden, then that guy gets shot. And then she crawls under the thing to go after that guy, and she fires at him. And you see him like holding his back, like where he got hit in his vest, but also like he got shot in the leg or something because he's limping.
Yeah.
And then she's like, and then he gets her and he brings her into the trailer and he puts her down.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yes." She goes, "Can you radio me a helicopter?" And she's like, "You don't have one of those, do you?" He's like, "No, we don't." And she's like, "Okay." She goes, "Well, leave me your radio and go get him." And he's like, he won't be coming back alive or whatever. And she's like, "I know." And he leaves and he goes running after him. And so the next thing you see is he's like freaked out, like thinking he hears something, and he does, but we don't know it. And it's fucking Corey knocking him out and putting him in a sleeping bag and dragging him up to the highest point in the mountain in Wyoming. And then unzips the thing, and the guy's like, "What the fuck's going on? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, you got frostbite." Then he sees his feet. He's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "Yeah, you got frostbite just like her. Now you can go to the road. It's only, I don't know how many miles. I'm not going to tell you, but the road's out that way." And he's like, "So she survived, 6 miles, and see if you'll probably survive, 200 feet or 600 feet. And he's like, no. And he just and then he fires right next to his face. He's like, "I want you to run." And so he starts running, and, Gannett Peak, that's what that's called. Pete confesses and is given a chance. Yeah. So right after that, he's like, "Okay, yeah, I raped her." And you're like, Jesus God, this guy, just kill him already. Confesses and is given a chance to flee on foot into the frigid wilderness. He attempts this, but succumbs to the elements as Lambert expects. So yeah, Lambert's able to watch him just collapse first, like she did, and then crawl a little bit, and then roll over, and then just drown in his, in his blood or whatever.
And it was pretty much what he say, the 300 feet, 200 feet away.
It was real short. Yeah, he's like, "You won't make. She was a fighter. You're not. Yeah. Lambert visits Banner in the hospital, praising her toughness. He visits with Martin, so praising her toughness, and she's like, you know, she's like, no, I didn't do good. He's like, no, you did good. And she's real stoic at first. And like, yeah. And they're laughing and he's talking about Red Book or whatever he's reading. And then he's like, you're a warrior. He goes, you either survive out here or you surrender. You survived. And he's like, same with her, you know, and then it gets me every time when she says like 6 miles, I'm almost getting choked up. She goes, you said she survived 6 miles. He's like, yeah, she was a warrior. And you're like, oh shit. And I just, you know, I get all choked up and verklempt and I can't show my wife because she'll be like, really, you have feelings for this? And I'm like, shut up, honey.
Shut up and play with your rifle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go keep searching for the rifle. He visits with Martin and they share grief over the deaths of their daughters. And he explains, was that where he explains about what that? No, that was before when he explained. No, it was after when he explained like he went to that convention.
Oh,
and the psychiatrist, was that there or was that
no,
before?
that was before. That was
okay. Yeah, because he was standing.
He told him
when he was sitting, he was they share grief over their daughters as the film ends. And so I love where you're sad for him and you see him with a gun. Martin's out there with a gun. And like we said, the wife is asleep in the girl's room and he's holding this gun. And my wife's like, what's he doing with the gun? Is he going to kill himself? And I said, I think maybe he was going to, because he heard that this guy got released, you know, that the guy wasn't found. And I said, but then after he talks to Corey, then he's okay. He just had the gun.
And
just
he
in
also
case.
said that his son called.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
that he had his death face on and he was going to kill him.
Yeah, which is because he's like, I thought you didn't believe in this shit. And he's like, I made it up. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. And then he's like, I gotta wash this shit off before I go pick up Chris or Chip. Yeah, his name was Chip.
Yep.
And so yeah, then as the film ends, a title card states that missing persons statistics are kept for every demographic group except Native American women, whose numbers remain unknown. So Bustle revealed that Taylor Sheridan told NPR that he hired 2 researchers to uncover numbers about missing Native American women. They looked for 3 months. When they came back telling him they couldn't find a single statistic, the director included this eye-popping statement about the horrifying problem. The end.
Wow.
So is there something that sticks with you in this movie? We forgot to say this last time because I realized that I forgot it. But our thing is Cellular Heart. What sticks in your mind or in your heart about this movie, if anything?
I don't know because there's so much to it.
I'll go with mine. Mine first is always knowing that speech of her being a warrior and her going 6 miles. Like I always remember that when I think of this movie. I always think of that ambush at the trailer, like how intense that was when they're surrounding him and the guy's like, "Why are you flanking me?" And you're like, "What's going on?" And everybody's on high alert and you're like, "Oh shit," you know.
Honestly, because the buddy of mine at work asked what movie we were doing today, and I told him. And the first thing that I told him was the end credit part talking about Native American women. That there's no database saying anything about it. I said for that to be the first thing I think of after everything I saw in this movie, is insane.
Yeah.
Like it makes that it led up to that, and that's what burns in my fucking head.
Yeah,
it pisses me off.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Like, it pisses me off.
As awesome as it was, and the emotional gut wrenching moments as it was, it just getting to that last bit that I was not expecting to pop up.
Exactly. This is a big problem, but I'm also angry that we came in and was just like, this is our land now. It's like, what the fuck? Like we were here forever. And it's the kind of thing, kind of like Martin said, like we have nobody to pass on this history anymore because things are getting modernized or whatever. Like there's no, they have chiefs, but the Chiefs aren't really doing that because I think kids are getting more into whatever and wanting to leave. And so you don't have a lot of that history to pass on, and it's sad.
Well, and that's the thing is that when you see that ending part, it's so, honestly, it's a weird thing that the girl from the beginning that died is Casey's wife in Yellowstone. And when she becomes a teacher, and one of the first things that she says to these kids that don't really know what the fuck they're there to really learn.
Yeah.
Because when she's raw and she tells them that basically when these Native American kids have nothing to do and they're mixing Windex with shit and drinking it.
Yeah.
Because they don't have alcohol to drink and they're drinking this Windex mix crap. I forget what she called it. And it's killing them.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, when you realize that this stuff is real information that Taylor Sheridan is getting a hold of and making you aware of what,
the problem,
what they're going through.
It's crazy. It's, there needs to be more done about it. And that's where you've heard a lot of these murder shows or just of, like, here's all these women that are missing and nobody knows where they're. It's the same thing, not the same thing. But when I'm watching a murder show and they're talking about these prostitutes, these sex workers. A prostitute is derogatory. These sex workers that are out there, they got nobody else. They're maybe by themselves. And they get picked up by somebody and they get killed. And one of the girls is like, oh, maybe she left and moved town. Maybe she went somewhere else. I don't know. And then when they go to find that person, it's really hard. Have you seen Susan? There was one last night that they were saying, like, have you seen this girl? They were like, no, maybe she did die. Maybe that is one of the dead people that you found. Come to find out, no, she moved. She was somewhere else. They found her. And it was like, but yeah, it's like, it's these people that,
Well, and what sucks about it is that in those instances where there's sex workers, a lot of times they won't use their real name.
Right. Yeah.
The same way that a stripper does, right?
Yeah.
But these are real Native American women using their real name, trying to live their lives, and they're fucking disappearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and there's nothing hard about that to put into a database. And when she's sitting here fighting in this movie, when she's fighting with them to say, you got to label it a homicide so I can get people out here.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they need to have a group, FBI group, to go out to these reservations and work specifically because it federally for making a database and to find out where all these women are disappearing to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they need to make. I was watching a thing. It was something where they overturned in England. It was something about if you're charged for, how you got double jeopardy, you can't be charged twice. But it was a guy who they tried to get, and then later he was in prison bragging about, I killed this woman. I don't give a shit. I might have killed another girl, blah, blah, blah. And so they figured out a way to change that to make it where, so he could be charged, and then he got more time. So, but he more got time for perjury. It was perjury, and he got more years and other things. But anyway, it's very cool. But the reviews, Rotten Tomatoes, critical consensus reads, Wind River lures viewers into a character-driven mystery with smart writing, a strong cast, and a skillfully rendered setting that delivers the bitter chill promised by its title. So I give this movie 5 out of 5 celluloid hearts. What do you give it?
I give it 5, definitely.
Sweet.
And what I was going to say earlier is it's almost like Gil is Taylor Sheridan's
muse or something.
Yeah, Muse.
Yeah. I mean a muse, just a regular muse. Yeah. But also, like, my wife was like, why do you think he writes all this stuff about Native Americans? And I'm like, either he's like, who was the guy that you said, Chase, no, the girl's husband, the military guy in Yellowstone. I'm like, either he's like Casey, who has a Native American wife, or that he's just grown up there and he feels like Jeremy Renner when Jeremy Renner's like telling Chip, like, it's hard for our people, whatever he says, us. And he's talking because he's been with the wife. He knows his father-in-law is, Native American. And Chip's like, what the fuck you mean us people? Like, no, we're, But also that kind of explains like what you're saying about these girls when Chip is like, it's just so damn, like, I just want to get out. And he kind of calls him on his shit and is like, you could leave at any time. But you chose to come here to this trailer and get fucking high as fuck. And we didn't talk about that. How crazy was that? Where the guy's like,
yeah,
that actor looked like he was just go smoke some crack and come here and talk to these people. Cause he's just like out of it. And he's like, and he goes, and Ben's like, hey, I'm Chief. Blah, blah. And he's like, oh, hey, Chief. And you're like, he's been talking to you. He's been there this whole time. And he's like, hey, Chief. And then he goes, yeah, I got something for you. And she's like, move your hand, put your hands up, whatever. And then he pulls that fucking big old bear pepper spray like fucking dog uses and sprays that at him. And they're like, God damn it. And then those two guys come running out. My wife and I always laugh when he grabs that shovel. Jeremy Renner's waiting with the shovel. And
they're so fucked up that he only has to hit one of them and the other one
and the other one trips. And Chip trips over him. And then, but then when she's searching the trailer, and I forget that main guy was still there. I'm like, I think they're all gone. They all went out the back. And then, and the camera does it good where it's just like her. It's her leaning out just to check. And she sees nothing. And then she goes out and then he steps out and starts shooting at her. And she just unloads. And then he falls down.
Awesome.
And then she goes up there and Ben's like, yeah, come on, let's go. They're out back. And she's like, no, we need to call somebody. And he's like, Ben's like, okay, knowing that he's going to die anyway soon, but okay.
Well, he says,
and Ben starts to step over there and then the guy dies before Ben can even try to do anything.
Well, the first thing he says when she says something about he's still alive, he said it would take a half hour.
Yeah.
For a ambulance to get out there, and he'll be dead by then anyway. And so she basically stands there and watch it. They watch him die.
Yeah. Well, Ben starts to step, but he's half a step in, and the guy already took his last breath.
Yeah.
All right, Phil's film favorite of the week. Are you ready for this one? I watched this morning. It's very cool. So, I reached out to Criterion Channel, and I was like, hey, because I love film noir. If you don't know what film noir is, Chip, it's Asphalt Jungle. That's a film noir. So, and then neo noir is like Blood Simple or, stuff like that, like newer, whatever. But then in the 50s, they had Technicolor. So they did noir in color on Criterion. And they put up these movies. And so the other day, I'm like, I'm standing there, I'm going through the movies. I think it was Monday morning when I came home, and I start clipping through, and I'm like, oh shit, that's I haven't seen that one. That one sounds good. And I'm reading all the descriptions about each one, and I'm like, oh fuck. And then I run into some that I've seen, and I run into one that's a remake of High Sierra with Humphrey Bogart. And I'm like, oh, this is a remake of that movie with our guy, you're my number one guy. That guy's in it. Nice. And he's playing the Humphrey Bogart part, but he's fucking badass. He's vicious. He's just mean. And I'm like, and so I write the out of the podcast. They do a podcast about film noir. So I write them and I'm like, guys, have you seen I Killed 1,000 Times? I Died 1,000 Times is what that one's called, of the Jack Palance. And so I'm like, have you guys seen this? And he's like, no, but we should check it out. I go, if you have Criterion Channel, like, check it out. And I'm looking at everyone, reading everyone. I'm like, holy shit, there's one in there that was about Robert Ryan. It reminded me of this kind of Wind River, but it was in the desert. And it wasn't Native Americans. It wasn't none of that. But a woman and a guy and her husband are out, like, riding around on horseback, and they have a car. And Robert Ryan breaks his leg. Her husband breaks his leg. So they're like, oh, we'll go get help. But they're fucking dating. So then they're like, let's just leave him, and pretty soon he'll die because he can't get out of there. We've parked the car far away. It's going to get stripped, which it did, and it'll be gone. The desert is so big, like he can't get out. It's a Mojave Desert, can't get out. So then all of a sudden you see him, and most of the movie is him just thinking in his head, like, oh, maybe I can make a splint here and I can pop my leg back into place. It's going to hurt like hell, but if I don't think it's my leg, it'll be okay. Maybe that. And it's this whole thing of him trying to get out. And then them. And so while he's like trying to find food, or he'll like miss shooting a rabbit, or he shot the rabbit and then like a coyote came and grabbed the rabbit. He's like, that's my rabbit. While he's yelling about food, then all of a sudden it'll cut to like the couple now back at the house, like eating real good food or swimming in the water while he's looking for water. They're swimming in a pool. Like, really does real cool with that. But anyway, that one's called, what was that called? It's called Inferno. And then by the end, he finally gets out. This old person gets him, but that other guy, the boyfriend, suspects that he might be still alive. And the boyfriend comes there, and they get in this really cool fight. But that's not even the one. But my point is, all these movies, I'm reading every single. I'm like, oh my God, I know what I'm doing on my days off. I'm watching every one of these, and some of them I've already seen, like Niagara. With I think that was on one of my Phil's film favorites was Marilyn Monroe. But anyway, so I'm reading through all these. So I write Criterion. I go to Instagram and I write them, and I'm like, hey. And I've written them before, but through like a regular email. But I wrote them and I was like, hey guys, I would love to do a podcast on everything on the Criterion channel. And you could just, whatever. I would love to do it. If you need me, I'm your guy. Yeah. And of course, just like Juliette Lewis and Mark Hamill, nobody writes me back off of my Instagram.
How rude.
So yeah. No, which I understand. But then I did right on there was like, thank you for putting these on here. Like, it's really great. And I'm glad the Criterion channel has gone. It was worrisome because there was another streaming service that kind of went under. And so people were worried that maybe Criterion wouldn't last, but it lasts and it's doing good. But anyway, the movie that I saw that was a little better, half a star better than that one with Robert Ryan called Inferno, was House of Bamboo, 1955. Sam Fuller directed. Don't know if you know Sam Fuller, but Quentin Tarantino loved him, and there was a documentary with him and that guy that's married to Susan Sarandon. What's his name? He was in The Player. He's in Bull Durham. Anyway, you think of that. The plot, planted in a Tokyo crime syndicate, a U.S. Army investigator attempts to probe the coinciding death of a fellow Army official. So what's cool is this guy shows up and he's trying to like shake people down.
Tim Robbins.
Thank you. I was thinking I guess Robbins. So he shows up. He's trying to be like shake people down and try to run his own little mob thing. Again, Robert Ryan pops in and is like this psychopathic guy is like, what are you doing? This is my turf. We do this. And they beat him up and they kick him out and they're like, go away. Then he meets with the police and he's talking to the police. This Robert Stack, guy from Unsolved Mysteries. Robert Stack goes in there and he's like, well, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, is he helping the police? Then Robert Ryan says, I want you as part of my crew. And that's what he's been looking for, is to get in there to figure out what they're doing. And there's this really cool, first of all, it's filmed in Tokyo. It looks beautiful. And some people say it was the first, but it wasn't. But it was 1955. And it was really cool because there was this moment when he's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take this bank van that like got a bunch of money in it. We're going to rob it. I'm going to be driving behind it in a red bus. And at a certain time, when they get here, you guys block it off and we'll get it. So they go, okay. And then Robert Stack, one of the guys, Robert Ryan's like, I don't want you involved in this. You don't go. And the guy's like, why not? And he's really hot-headed and stuff. And he's like, this is why. Because you got hot-headed, you'll still get your cut. Just leave it alone. And he's like, but you're all into Robert Stack. Like, fuck you. And it's also got DeForest Kelley in it, like uncredited, but he's one of the bad guys. Nice. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor. And so he's not a doctor. He's a bad guy. So then they're driving. Now Robert Stack's with the cops waiting for them to do this heist. Robert Ryan's in this bus, and it's weird because somebody else is driving, but he's in the bus with a record player, and it's playing through the speakers like an ice cream truck. And the record's playing a certain song, and all of a sudden this guy gets on the bus, and I knew that it was a cop who's walking around asking all the Japanese police. He's working with them because it was right as we were still working with them with the after the war taking them, and so he's finding out what's going on, and finally they tell him like, oh, this thing, and it turns out that guy is one of the informants for Robert Ryan. So now Robert Ryan. Now he stops the bus, gets on, tells Robert Ryan, oh man, like there's somebody in your thing that's like a rat. And he's like, oh, and he flips the record over and plays another song, like an American song. And all of a sudden, all the guys that are part of the crew can hear it coming through this, and they're like, oh, something happened. It's off. And they go, oh, we're not doing it. No, we're not doing it. And then Robert Stack is like, wait, something happened. And they go, why? He goes, the music, it's been changed. Like now it's been canceled. So they're like, oh, fuck. So now Robert Ryan thinks that buddy that he let stay home, thinks he ratted on him. He goes and kills that guy. And then that cop guy that's his informant was like, oh no, you killed the wrong guy. It's this army guy. And he's like, motherfucker. And so then he's pissed, and then they have this whole fight. But it's that realism kind of, not realism even though it's silly record player, but it's that kind of stuff that was like, oh wow, that's a cool little addition thing that they did. So it was really, really neat. I gave it 4.5 hearts. I really liked it.
Now I suddenly want to watch Airplane.
Yeah, well, that's good, but not as good as this one.
Well, if it's Robert Stack.
I know. Chip and I will be back on July 15th for...
Lean back. Tread right there. Bracing. This is going to penetrate.
Good evening. Civilized towns, you look a man direct in the face when you talk to him.
This isn't comfortable.
Well, it's not supposed to be.
There's a situation. Serious.
Mrs. O'Dwyer was abducted.
She is my everything, and those savages have got her. God knows what they're doing to her, and every second that we delay.
You know who did this? You don't have a name. How many of them do you think there are?
It won't matter. You have no chance against any number of them.
I'm coming with you.
No, I need you here.
And this is what a backup's for, to help an emergency, not stay back. I'm coming.
We're making a 5-day journey in 3 days, riding along and sleeping the bare minimum.
I don't know what's west of here. No cattle trail or anything else goes in that direction.
If our horses die before we get there, or we go into hostile territory, weak and foggy with exhaustion, we won't rescue anybody.
Don't be scared. I am a friend.
You aren't.
Damn you!
You had no cause. If you want to question my morals, do it later.
Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts,
which we are about to receive.
Ambush!
That's right. From 2015, it's Bone Tomahawk.
Woo-hoo.
So Kurt Russell's in it. That guy from Lost, what's his name? And it's got the guy from Step Brothers in it. And he was in Shape of Water. Dang it. Anyway.
Corrections galore.
That's right. Well, people will know. And So what do you think this movie's about? Do you have any idea?
I have no clue.
When you look up these movies, do you look up IMDb, read the little description, or do you just go rent, click?
Now I've been kind of, because I've been looking up the IMDb to see who else is in it, type of a thing, and to figure out, because sometimes, and when I pulled it up for this one for Wind River, it basically just told that
description,
same intro part that you said, that the hunter and all that stuff, and I was like, okay, cool. So that's what's cool about it. There's nothing really to give away. It's basically just they're hunting for killer, and then you're just wondering who is it. And that's it.
Yeah, Bone Tomahawk. So on this one, Chip and I said, I want you to see this director did 3 movies. He did 4, but the other one's not these main ones that he did. And I said, I want to do this guy because he was one of my directors that I mentioned on our thing. His name is S. Craig Zoller. And so Chip's like, well, we could do a 3-part instead of a 2-part. And I'm like, oh, duh. Yeah, it's my podcast. I can do what I want. And and the thing with Bone Tomahawk right now on iTunes is like $1 rental instead of like the $4 rental. So it's like, okay. And I own all 3 of these on iTunes. I bought Dragged Across Concrete. It was like $10. I bought it right away. I rented it first for like $7. And then all of a sudden was like, oh shit. Like, no, I got to buy that. And so it's Bone Tomahawk, Brawl in Cell Block 99, and then Dragged Across Concrete. And I'm calling it Real Grit because you thought these movies were gritty. Like this is, but anyway, I can't wait for you to see them. Everybody, I'm sorry that you have to rent those, but they're really good. So certain movies stick with you. They stay in your head and heart forever. So from all of us at My Cellular Heart, keep watching movies. Do you have any dialogue, anything? All I could think of was, that she ran 6 miles, huh? And you're like, yes, see, there you go.
She's a warrior.
There you go. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.